Remember a couple of weeks ago when I said, I'm gonna build the best beta system on YouTube? You thought I was kidding, didn't you? No, I wasn't kidding. In fact, I've been working on it ever since, and the pressure is on now, because now I have a deadline. I've been working on this thing off and on for a couple of months now, and it's been a roller coaster ride for sure. One thing after another has gone wrong, or I've bought the wrong materials and had to start all over. It's been crazy, but like I said in the opening, I have a deadline now. The pressure is on because Lisa is at our fish distributor. She's meeting with him right now, picking out our next batch of betas that we're gonna have on the website. So I can't mess around. I have to get at least half of this system done today so that when she gets back, we can get them all in it and we don't have to worry and scramble at the last second. But there's a lot that's happened between the last video I did and now. So let me show you kind of a montage, get you up to speed. In the first video of this series, I focused on getting the space ready for this system, and now it's time to focus on the tanks. This is some footage of Lisa unboxing all of the tanks. Between her and our daughter, they had to unbox 300 of these little tanks that we custom ordered out of China. I was not expecting them to all be individually wrapped and boxed like that, but they were, and that's a good thing. So far, I've only found 3 tanks that were broken during shipping. Once all of the tanks were unboxed, we had to go through and individually drill the hole for the drain in each one. And the funny thing is, Lisa and I developed a little system of her handing me the tank and I drill it. And between each one, she would be going through and doing her little dancing. She said, "Hey, I'm gonna get some exercise while I'm doing this." I married a goofball. What can I say? Now for the drains, we have a system that is a grommet and an elbow, and we have found that if we soak these in really hot water prior to putting them in, it goes in much smoother. And so Lisa's filling this up with hot water to get them softened up so that she can put the grommet into the back of the tank and then take a little bit of Vaseline and put it on the elbow, which has a burr on it to create the seal. And then she sticks that in there, and it takes a little bit of pressure, and it wore her hands out after a while, but she was able to get them in. She hands them off to me, and then I took a pair of pliers, which is very dangerous, but I used that to kind of force that grommet down into there, and I had to wear 2 gloves, and it is just a miserable experience, I gotta be honest. But once we got this system going, we just went for it and got into the zone and just got them done. Onto the plumbing, there's 2 different systems for the plumbing. There is the drains, which takes the water from the tanks and takes it down to the sump. And then you have the supply lines, or the returns. The industry would call it the returns, but I call it supply lines because that's just what I call it. But this would be the line that delivers the water from the sump up to the tanks. And what you see me doing here is going through and rough cutting the supply lines to make sure they're going to fit in there and they're all in there nice and cozy. Now I'm using a system of valves, small valves, for each supply for each tank, and I had to go through and individually drill every single one of those. I didn't have the ability to set up a system on my drill press, so I just went through, marked them all by hand, and then drilled them all by hand. And after a while, we kind of got in the zone with it again. Lisa came out, helped me out. She would be going through and drilling all of the holes. But once the holes are drilled, then we have to go back with a second drill bit, which actually cuts the threads into each hole, and then that allows you to screw the valve into place. It's a time-consuming thing, but it's one of those things that we would just go through there and had fun just talking and telling lies and drilling holes for hours and hours and hours. Once all of the holes were drilled and tapped, then it was time to paint it. I wanted to paint these prior to putting the valves on, because if I covered the valves with paint, they would be painted shut. So we don't want that. I got to paint it, let it dry, And then we can start the painstaking process of going through and putting all of these valves into that. And you know what? It's not that big of a deal. However, after you've done 40 or 50 or 60 or 100, it does start to wear your fingers out. But you know, that's kind of the name of the game with this. It's just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The holes for the drains were much easier. They did not need to be tapped. They're just a larger hole. There's going to be no pressure on this system at all. So they're just big open holes for the drain to go into. Not a big deal. Just put it on the drill press and knock it out. Now that all the drains have their holes cut in them and the supplies are drilled and tapped and have the valves installed, it's time to put all of this into place. The supply lines, there's only 2 that run through the whole system that will supply the tank immediately below, and then the row below that. You'll see that as we go on. And then for the drains, I had all 4 shelves with their own drain. Again, I'll focus more on that later on, but it's a pretty simple system. It might sound intimidating. It's really not. It's just time consuming, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. Like I've said, I'm even saying it over and over and over again, but I kind of thrive on doing that kind of stuff where I just get into a zone and I'm just going on and on and on and on. But anyway, I didn't want to do a whole tutorial on the plumbing because we could make a 4-hour video on that, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how the whole system works and how I put it all into place. Once the plumbing system was all tied in, I had to go through and install each individual tank, and each one required its own little bit of work. So we have the elbow that you saw us installing earlier. Well, I attached a piece of hose to each one of those elbows, which Lisa so graciously cut 300 of those little hoses for me. I had to put that onto that barbed fitting and then run it down into the hole in the drain. And each one of them had to be cut again to fit the system. But since the systems are all the same with each shelf, I would get a measurement for one tank, and then I would use that measurement on each of the other 3. So I was really only doing any measuring once, but again, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Again, I'm not complaining. I like this kind of work. It took a while, but we got her done. Okay, I've got all of the plumbing hooked up to every single one of these tanks. Half the system, about 150 tanks, good to go. All that's left now is to put the sump down there and plumb everything in and get this system running before Lisa gets back with all these fish. But I just got an email from the distributor that I ordered these tanks from, the 2 tanks that I'm going to be using as the sumps, and they said that the truck that was delivering those was involved in an accident. It was actually 12 tanks in this shipment. We ordered 10 tanks for something else that we have going on that's for a future video. So a tractor trailer with 12 glass boxes in it gets in an accident. The likelihood of those tanks being okay is slim to none. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know what's going to end up. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I got to get this thing going. I can't just say, well, can't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 29-gallon sumps that I used to use in my 240-gallon tank. I'm going to use those for now because I have to get this system up and running. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use those temporarily. The main reason why I'm using 55s is so that I can do water changes through the sump. And if I drain out a 55-gallon, which would only have about 50 gallons in it, but if I drain that out, it's a much larger water change than a 29-gallon. So it's not that I need a 55 to provide enough filtration. It's not that at all. The 29 would be completely fine for that. It's more of a maintenance thing, which is why I wanted to use the 55s. But they're not an option right here, right now. So I'm going to put the 29s in, at least one for now on this side, and then we'll see what happens. And maybe I'll get those tanks on the truck one day. Maybe not. I don't know. So the sump system on this is going to be very simple. It's just a filter sock, and then I'm going to have biomedia down in there, and then a pump returning it. I will also have heaters in there. Right now it's not necessary because it is very hot in that room. We don't have air conditioning in that room yet. We will eventually. Don't worry, Lisa. But right now it's warm enough where we don't have to worry about a heater, but the heaters will eventually go down in there. So once the water is in the sump and going through the filter sock and being heated by the heater, which will eventually be in there, it has to be sent back up to the tanks. And we're doing that with a really nice CJ pump. I know I'm a CJ fanboy. I know I have a relationship with CJ, but listen, I bought these. They were not sent to me for free. I got 2 of the Syncra SDC 7.0 pumps, one for each system. And the reason why I got these is because, first of all, Jay Wilson told me these are the ones I need, but also I like the fact that they are controllable. I could control these with an app on my phone if I wanted to, but there's a small controller that comes with it that you can adjust the flow of the water. And that's going to be very important because once everything's running, I'm going to spend probably hours dialing everything in, making sure that there's enough flow to get to all of the tanks, but also making sure that each one is fine-tuned so that it's not too much. So having a pump with that kind of flexibility is really important. And I just got to say, spoiler alert, it worked beautifully. Now the fun part, getting to go through and fill up all of these tanks, but unfortunately that turned out to not be so much fun because we did find 5 tanks that were leaking in this first wall here. And that's, you know, I mean, it is what it is. Thank you for the help cleaning up the leaking water. Thank you, Carl. And the hits just kept on coming because we had more tanks that were leaking, 8 in total across the first 150 tanks. Am I mad about it? Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm mad about it. I'm not happy about it, but you know, things like this are going to happen. You're having 300 tanks made custom. They're all acrylic. You know, you're bound to have issues with some of them. Fortunately, I've already contacted the manufacturer and they've said, once you get all of these things installed and you know all of them that are leaking or whatever, let us know and we'll replace them all. So that's very good. I'm really happy about that. They will get a really good review from me on Alibaba. So yeah, it is what it is. We're just going to move on and deal with it. This is the moment of truth. This is when I turned on the pump and got the whole system going and had to go through and scramble and adjust every single one. Now, I made a mistake on here, and you need to know this if you're going to build a system like this. I opened all of the valves 100% because I didn't want there to be too much pressure in this system. If all of the valves were closed off, I was afraid that something might blow out or something like that. So I opened them up full blast and then turned the system on. Well, the tanks that are very close to the pump are going to have a lot more flow than the ones at the end. And I learned that very quickly because those tanks filled up super fast and some of them overflowed. So what I had to do was go through and I turned the pump off first, and then I went through and I just barely opened up each one of the valves and then turned the system back on and it was fine. And then I had to go through and fine tune each and every one of them because I just wanted a trickle of water coming out just to move the water a little bit and filter it through. I didn't need some strong stream coming out of every single one of the valves. It took a while to get it all dialed in, but it did end up getting dialed in and it was working very, very well. Now this is a system that it's going to have leaks. There's going to be little drips here and there, and I'm going to have to go through and fine tune those in the next few days. But overall, It's working really, really well, and I'm really happy about it. All right, so here we are. The first half of the system is done. Kinda. The fish are in it. I was able to get everything all put together before Lisa got home with the fish. We put the fish into the tanks the next morning, and everybody settled in quite nicely. Now, I say the first half is done. It's not completely done because I do still need to go in and do some fine tuning. There's little drips here and there and stuff like that. That's kind of annoying, but it's one of those things where when you have 300 plumbing fittings and you have 300 drains and all of these pipes running everywhere, you're bound to have some minor issues, and those are happening. Fortunately, there's no big geysers or anything like that. There's nothing where water is flooding into the floor or anything like that. It's just very inconsistent, random drips, intermittent drips that are coming from it. I've just got to go track all of those down and use some Flex Seal or some silicone or something to get those sealed up, and everything will be fine. But as far as the operation of the system, it's running perfectly. I absolutely love it. I only have one complaint that I'm hopefully going to be able to resolve. I really don't know, and that is that the system is very loud, and I don't know what is responsible for that noise. There's a lot of water movement going on, and it's not the water entering into the tanks, because that's just a trickle. It makes no noise at all. It's the actual plumbing itself, the supply lines, the drains. I don't know if I'm going to be able to quiet that down at all. If I can't, so be it. But I don't like aquariums that make a lot of noise. So I'm going to see what I can do about that. But other than that, it's just going to be, like I said, going through fine tuning, getting these little drips and stuff like that. And that half of the system will be completely done. Now, what's going to be happening moving forward? Well, there's two things. First, I'm not going to put the second half of the system together and show that in video, because it would be doing the exact same video again. I mean, it would just be a repeat of what this video was. So I've got to get that done. But there is a third phase to this project, and that's going to be installing a water tank in here somewhere. I plan on putting it in the bathroom, but I'm not sure. I might move that. That water tank is going to supply this system with fresh water. That water is going to be treated the way Lisa likes to prepare the Betta water. And so it's there, ready to go. And it's just a matter of turning valves and stuff like that to do water changes in this system. That's going to be the next phase of this project. And of course, I will show that in video. Now, I do need to do a little bit more planning for that. It's going to be a pretty simple project. The only difficult part about it is going to be finding the location of that tank. I've thought about putting it in the shower in the bathroom back there, but I don't know. I mean, Lisa and I have had talks before about maybe someday making this building like a guest cottage kind of thing, and it would be a shame to destroy that shower. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. That's going to be the next video in this series, is getting this whole thing finalized and having it be what I have claimed throughout the whole series, the best Betta system on YouTube. That's what I'm shooting for, and I think we're on our way there now. I'm really excited about it. Oh, and I do want to mention too, even though all of the multicolored cards in there looks pretty cool, and it's a nice rainbow of colors, we're going to be changing that too. That was one of the first things Lisa said the other day, was we got to replace those with black cards that are more cut to fit the tanks. So, but I'm not going to do a video about that. So anyway, when this whole system is done, I feel confident that it will be the best Betta system on YouTube. Got to shoot for the stars, right? So anyway, thank you so much. This video has been a whole lot of fun to do. It's been a long process to get it done, but I've enjoyed it very much. I hope you have too. If you have, maybe you should go ahead and subscribe to the channel so that you can see what we do in here in the future. Don't miss out on part 3 when that comes out, so that we can have this not fully automated, but almost fully automated system for doing water changes and stuff like that. It'll be cool. I'm going to stop talking. This has been too much. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.